Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Cybersecurity in Focus, the podcast brought to you by Seacon Cyber. I'm Katie Watson, and today I'm joined by Jeremy Clipstone, ICT Manager at Suffolk Coastal Port Health Authority. There, Jeremy leads the technology and cybersecurity function, supporting a 24/7 operation at one of the UK's largest container ports. Before that, Jeremy spent 22 years in the Royal Air Force Regiment, leading specialist teams. He also is a Great Britain age group triathlete. And trust me, that does come up, and it's actually a lot more relevant to cyber than you think. In this episode, we look at what military leadership actually looks like when you are now in the civilian world, why staying calm under pressure is a skill you can train for, and what Jeremy would tell anyone starting out in a leadership role. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Katie. You're welcome.
How's your day been?
Not too bad today. It's unusually quiet. Not sure what's going on.
Quiet is not a word I'd associate with your job. If you want to give the audience a little bit of context, what does your day-to-day look like as the Information Technology Manager of Suffolk Coastal Port Health Authority?
Okay, my normal day is coming in. We have a stand up in the morning because I like to know if there's any stoppers, blockers, any crisis, anything that's happened during maybe like today is a weekend, what happened over the weekend, so I can get an up to date if there's anybody been called out on any issues that have happened, and what is the plan for our infrastructure, our application support team, what they got planned for the week, and identify if there's any issues and any concerns, any blockers that I need to identify and put in place, and have a catch up with the guys on the service desk to make sure that they've got jobs and they've got little projects to do, because sometimes there's not hundreds of tickets, sometimes the tickets are stuck with various different departments, and so they need to keep active on that. Then we had one of the guys, his partner lost the dog. They went out for a walk and lost the dog. So he said, can he quickly shoot off and go and see if we can find the dog? My crisis management this morning on lost dog procedure.
I know this is going to be like the number one question asked. Has he found his dog?
Yeah, half an hour they found it.
It's so interesting though, that's like one of the first things that we're talking about, because this kind of comes into what I think this conversation is going to end up talking about because of your career and everything, is how do you become a good leader? And I think learning how to deal with a lost dog is not something they teach you in any cybersecurity course.
No, I think becoming a good leader, I had my eyes opened up when I was in the Royal Air Force. I got promoted to corporal. I went from a senior aircraftsman in the Air Force and then into corporal. On my courses, it was very much sort of authority. You tell everybody what to do and you just get on with it and they deal with it. Okay. They don't question anything. They just do it. But one of my flight sergeants turned round because some of the corporals were shouting, and I thought, do you need to shout? And, so you just follow suit. And one of my flight sergeants came up to me and said, you only shout when you lose control. And that I've always resonated on me, that. And also, you tell the guys what to do and how to do it. But in my time after that, I started to learn a different way of leadership is by gaining respect. And like I've always said to my team, even my team here in the ICT, I wouldn't expect you to do anything unless I would do it myself.
That's a really good perspective on leadership.
So I wouldn't give them anything to do, or like in the military as an exercise, I wouldn't give the guys the exercise unless I would do it myself. I say lead by example.
It makes so much sense. And are there any examples from your time in the military and any moments that you think has really shaped you as a leader other than that as well? Has there been any other specific times?
Yeah, which then comes into my cybersecurity and operational. When I was on a specialist team and in dealing with various different crises, I am quite straight onto the operation side, so not being big-headed or anything, I could deal with a crisis pretty comfortably. I'll be panicking inside, but I'll be like a swan on top of the water. I'll be going smoothly along. Everybody think you're quite calm, but inside me, my head's running 100 miles an hour, ticking over like the swan on top of the water. So dealing with a crisis, I've had instances where I've had to go to a site and I've been asked to plan sort of picking up certain product, making sure that everybody is safe and all of that. And that's one live incident. And that's how I see it within my job role here in the IT and also the cybersecurity, is making sure that you're calm under pressure, you can be calculative. Listen to your podcast earlier, the lady on there was saying about how to respond to it, not jumping into it straight away, and just taking that pause in thinking about what you can do, what your actions are going to be before you move on to the next part. If you do something instinctively straight into it, it could be the wrong thing. Where if you pause, have a think about it. Prime example, it might be what the hackers want. The hackers might want you to do that, and then that just leads on to an escalation within it. So having a look at working on dealing with incident responses, I feel that's shaped me well within the Air Force, and I've taken it into like civilian street, as we would call it.
And that being calm under pressure, it does not come naturally to me. I think that it doesn't come naturally to everyone. What advice would you give to someone if they want to improve that skill and learn to be much more level-headed and relaxed in times and moments of stress?
I think that's practice, rehearsals. Probably one of the things here, like the guys on the desk, I think they're pretty good when they come across an incident and deal with a problem. We've rehearsed it, so we have like tabletop exercises. I try and have one a month, so we can go through various simple little incidents. If someone's sent out an email with all company details on it to another company by accident. It's not like pointing a finger at somebody saying that's your problem. Right, we all get together, we discuss it and have a plan in place and rehearse it. And then I get one of my other guys, he'd come up with an incident and just drop it on our table, and without us knowing about it. So we have to deal with the incident. Who's going to be the communications officer? Who's going to be the liaison? Who's going to be the scribe? Who's going to be the manager of that case? What about if I'm not here? Can they manage without me? I might be on holiday in Mallorca cycling somewhere. So can they manage without me? So that's how it should be. It is not a big secret. They need to be able to manage without me if I'm not here.
That is brilliant. Not a lot of leaders as well will think about what happens when they're not there. And I think that is a sign of a good leader, is you empower people so that they can act without you. Have you had any instances in the past where that's really been beneficial, where someone, maybe you've trained them or you've supported them in their career and you've then seen them act in those moments without you?
Yes. Prime example, I was away doing a big race in another country, Spain. I was racing there. While I was away, they had a P1. I didn't even know nothing about it. A P1 incident is where our telephone system had gone down. There's no call, so no calls could come in. And being an operational port, we need to make sure that staff have communications with the import agents, because sometimes we need to get the more detail out of them for what's in the containers. So I was away, came back, and they said, we had a P1. This is the incident we had. I said, right, who was the incident? They'd done it because we had rehearsed things very similar to this, not the phone system, just another exercise we did, but they just dropped into it and everything. And I spoke to my manager and he said, the guys ran it without you. Do we really need you? And I went, okay. No, but everything ran smoothly and didn't have one problem, and it was all documented. I read through it. They even had a post report afterwards and wrote up their actions.
That's brilliant. And it just shows you also practice. And I knew this would be true talking to you, but everything you're saying on this podcast, this is stuff you do day in and day out. And it's how you built such a well-resourced, intelligent, put-together team, is you do practice what you preach, which is so refreshing and exciting to hear about. And you touched on racing briefly. And for the audience who don't know, do you want to explain, because you're a triathlon athlete?
Yes.
It's absolutely incredible.
Thank you. Over the last 3 years, I have represented Great Britain in triathlons. What I've done is that's a sprint triathlon, so that's quite a short one. And some people go, that's not really a triathlon, because they talk about Ironman. An Ironman is like 3.4 kilometer swim, 180k bike, and a marathon to finish. That they call that the triathlon. But you can spend a couple of minutes, 3 or 4 minutes in transition. What I mean transition is changing your swim kit to your bike kit, then to your bike kit to your run kit. So you can take your time in there because you've got such a long race and that's an all-day thing. Whereas a sprint triathlon, it is a pure triathlon where you've got to be quick in transition. So you've got to change from swim to bike, then to run. If you spend a couple of minutes, that could be you being from first to 10th.
Wow.
So, I do triathlon. So I do it sprint distance. I've done that for the last 3 years for Great Britain. And this year I'm doing it again in Spain, Pontevedra, if I pronounced it right. So apologies if I haven't. So I've got the sprint and I've got a relay. So we've got the relays where all four of you do the event, but you do the whole event, then you tag the next person, and that's a shorter distance. So that's quite a mega sprint one. And then in December, if the world is in a good place, in December in Qatar, I will be representing Great Britain in a T100, which is a 2 kilometer swim, 80 kilometer bike, and an 18 kilometer run.
Wow.
So it's a little bit longer.
And I have the pleasure of seeing your training plan on Strava. And the question that always comes into my head, where do you find all the time, Jeremy?
To be honest, I look at it as you can put off today, tomorrow, so on. If you wanted something, you've got to go out and get it. And you've got to work hard at it. What you see in a race and on the day is not what I've just done on that day.
Yeah.
That's all the hours, the months, the years that I've built up into getting into that position to be able to race at that level. So yes, so that's good, but that's how I also implement it in my work. Plus, also it's good for my mental health because there's many a time, being on operations in the military, I've seen things and I've done physical exercise all the time in the military, but also coming into here. If you're worried, because I do worry about cybersecurity, what if? Yes, you've got to have that what if condition.
Yeah.
If something happens, then you can deal with it. But it can overtake your life if you keep worrying about what ifs. So that's where sport takes me away from that and put me into a different place. And that's really good where I can mentally sustain. Because again, it's the same sport. If I want to be, I'm going to be racing for GB in September. I've set out a plan on how I'm going to get there. And what I do is I do loads of practice races and what I'm going to focus on. And that's the same within cybersecurity. You plan and say, right, I'm going to have an exercise in October. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan it and break it down in the months. So I have a time analysis. So next month we're going to be doing this. Next month we'll do this. So we'll have a plan and exercise the guys on what they can do and how to do it. So when we have the big exercise, just an internal one, and we might get some external people come in and assess us to make sure and give us some different perspectives on what we need to do. And that's what you do in sport. And I also implement it at work as well. Because I find that's the best way I feel that I can operate within sometimes can be a busy environment and a stressful environment.
There is such a big synergy between sport and the world of cyber. Looking at the relay, for example, you work together collectively as a team to achieve that goal.
Yes.
And it's not just what happens on race day, it's what happens when everyone, every day, they're training, they're getting their qualifications, they're practicing, they're getting all their certs. And then coming together in that moment when it all counts, the pressure is high, and that would be probably an incident, but you know what to do. You run every scenario. And thank you for touching on that sort of what if mentality, because I do think you're completely right. In this line of work, it's so easy to fall into that trap of what if this happens, what if that happens, because the threats are evolving and you have to
all the time.
constantly be on guard for threats that we don't even know about right now. What would you say to someone in cybersecurity who is starting to feel that stress and they don't know what to do?
Don't be frightened to ask questions. Prime example, I would say I know some technology stuff and everything, but I don't know the ins and outs. So I lean on the people around me. So if you've got a good team, then that team will support you in everything that you do. I've got my infrastructure, I've got my app support, I've got some of the developers got their CIS qualifications and things like that. So I lean on them to draw in the knowledge, and that's where the teamwork comes together, because not everybody is good at everything and you can't be good at everything. So you lean on them and pull them in and draw everybody in to resolve the issue. And that's where I would say a good leader comes in, because they can balance everything between them all. My service desk guys, they're absolutely brilliant. They're really good in what they do. They come together. They've all got different skills and attributes within the team, and that you can lean on different ones for different things. And sometimes they might feel the added pressure, but then you try and balance it out.
Brilliant. I think that's a key part of being a good leader, is letting the team as well work and do their work and not trying to do everything yourself. And
Yes.
that's come up in conversations before, is as you transition to that leadership role, you have to let go of the reins a little bit and trust people and trust them to be good at what they're good at. Because you can't know everything nowadays. It's far too much to know.
Yes, definitely. There's so much in the world of cyber, IT overall. The amount of people come up and go, "Oh, you're good at IT. How can I do this website?" I know a little bit, but I don't know it inside out because the IT is so vast now. It's not, you've got coding, you've got cyber security, you've got hardware, you've got infrastructure. It's just you've got AI as well now. So that's another one.
It's an ever growing list. And we definitely feel the list growing. I'm sure you do, and I'm sure your guys do. In those instances, how do you support your team and help to prevent burnout within your team?
Yeah, that's a good one because I've got one of my lads. He's really keen on developing his knowledge and enhancing it, and he's doing a lot of studying at home. He's even taking work at home, and I've had to have several words, nothing bad, but just to say, look, I'm a little bit concerned. Don't get burnt out. I want you to be able to be the best you can, but I don't want you to be burnt out, because you might feel, yeah, I can manage it now. Then a couple of months down the road, you will be off sick or anything like that. So we balance it that way. So I have regular meetings with them just to make sure they're okay, making sure that they're not overdoing it. And if they feel pressured, I feel that I'm quite approachable. So they should be able to approach me and say, look, I'm struggling with this. I feel a bit overwhelmed with the amount of work. And then I balance it on that and then just try and divvy it up between the team.
Divvying up between a team, again, it just comes back to that idea of you've built a team. You're not just relying
Yes.
on one person within your organization now. I mean, we've just heard that you don't even need to be there, Jeremy.
I know. Yeah, but in my team, I feel really privileged that they're there, and I feel honoured that they do almost anything, really. I try and balance it very similar to like I would do in the military. I'll give you an example. One of the guys, unfortunately, his dad passed away quite suddenly. So he had to go away. But by the time I got the message from him, the guys had already sorted out all his shift, covered his shift, working weekend and everything. So I didn't really have to do anything. All I done was had to change all the schedule on the planner because they had already planned it. Said, right, he's doing this, he's doing that. We're managing it. The weekend's covered, the lates are covered. So the guys had done it all, and that's what I would expect the team to do. They should, don't come to me with a problem. Come to me with the solution to the problem, which they did, and they done it all. And that's what I tell them all the time. I feel quite honoured that they're and they operate in a civilian street very much like my military team would.
That's fantastic. And even though this is a cybersecurity podcast, I'm so glad this stuff is coming up because empowering your team like that, because things do happen and unfortunate things happen in people's lives that are nothing to do with cybersecurity. They're completely out of our control. But coming together as a team in those situations and supporting, it builds such a strong environment. That will be what really helps us in this industry, being able to work together like that.
Yeah, work together in it, especially for, like you say, the cybersecurity. Yeah, we touched on different subjects there, but cybersecurity, I know my team would then sit there and work diligently all the way through until it has been resolved. We've made some resilience packages and that, and the guys have just gone away and just cracked on with making these resilient pack to support the local government agencies that we've got locally. Obviously, we're in the public sector.
Yeah.
We work in that, and we've got a couple of other different councils around us. And what we've done is we've set up a resilience box. So if any other local government agencies struggle with something, then we've got support for them as well. So it's not just here at Port Health, it is all the other agencies as well.
That's absolutely fantastic. And it is having such a positive impact on not only your organization, but the organizations around you. And it seems like you do a lot, you manage a lot of people in your day. How do you find managing it and making sure you're giving everyone enough attention and also doing your own work? And how would you find the time management element of it all?
I've done time management courses and I have implemented some of those skills, but that's just over time. I look at a time analysis sort of timeline. So I look at what's the priority, what's got to be done, and what's got to be set aside to make sure I get in place. So like I say, I use a bit of a timeline to make sure I cover as much as I can and have that buffer time in there for maybe myself to have a reflection on what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
That's brilliant. I think we are in a tick box world sometimes where we don't actually reflect on what we're doing. And
Yes,
particularly for leaders, you're always going for the next thing. You are trying to achieve the next certification, as your organization trying to make some compliance. There's always another threat. But that time to reflect on how you're leading is so
yes.
crucial. And I'm really glad that you brought it up. For someone who maybe they have just started leading their team or they're about to join and lead, they've never been a leader before, where would you say they need to begin?
I would say begin on observing the team that they've got. When I was on squadrons and I was posted to different sections, I didn't change anything. When I got posted into a new section, I would sit there. Well, not sit there. I'd work, but wouldn't make any changes for at least a month. So you can then pick up the information, who's good at what, who's not good, what is going wrong, what is going right, and what you could do to fine tune that team as an operational team. That's how I did it here at Port Health, and that's how I would recommend anybody just look at what's going on for at least a month. Don't try and make changes. Don't try and show who's boss or who's what. Just go in there and look at it.
That's brilliant. And not what I was expecting, but it makes so much sense because if you just go into an environment and you try to change everything straight away, you can upset people, you can cause more
Yeah.
confusion, and you actually can miss, sometimes what you think is the problem is not actually the problem at all.
Yes, definitely.
I love talking to you, Jeremy, because you've done so much in your life, in your career. And one of the questions I really want to ask you today is what is the thing that you are proudest of that you've achieved in your career, whether it's in when your time in the RAF or in the cyberspace?
There's so many in my military career. There's loads that I've been proud of. Then working here at Port Health, I've been here for 5 years in June. That'd be 5 years June. And I came in as just a service desk because I had to have a slight change of career. So I came in as a service desk, but then got promoted to supervisor and then from supervisor to manager. So I'm really proud of that. I love the job here. I love coming in and seeing them. And in the military, I got the Queen's Commendation for dedication to sport and my military career. So there's loads. I've got a list that I couldn't pick out one single best thing ever, but I've done so many.
That's fantastic. It's really interesting as well to understand how you came in kind of doing the service desk and you kind of risen the ranks outside of the military in, is it Civilian Street you call it?
Yeah, we call it Civilian Street. It's a bit of in Civvy Street, then obviously slightly different because coming out of the military was quite a big challenge. And if any ex-military people that listen to this is coming out, I was in the military for 22 years. That's a long time, and you're cocooned into a military regime. Things almost done for you. When you come out, you got to try. That was I would say, my most stressful part of my life is coming out of the military, making sure, because I had qualifications within the military for combat medic. I was medically, I could teach first aid, I could do loads of instruction. Our instructional techniques were pretty good, but I didn't have any civilian qualifications initially. So, I've had maths, English and IT qualifications and a diploma in IT and everything like that since, trying to develop my knowledge and skills.
And it just shows that it's not too late for anyone listening to this
No,
to get into
definitely not.
IT or cybersecurity. And what is great is the fact that a lot of the things you've said on this podcast about how you've led, how you've built your team, some of that has come from your time in the military.
Yes, definitely. The military shaped me to who I am now. So yeah, definitely.
I really needed to not do that. The advert with the Navy advert.
Oh yeah, yes, oh yes, yes.
I don't know how the licensing works, so I won't do the reference, but I'm sure everyone listening to this will
No,
know exactly what I'm
yeah,
talking to.
yeah, yeah. But no, the military did shape me. Obviously, they take you in the military and they recruit training and all the way through. Then your promotional trainings, courses that you do from corporal to sergeant and so on and so forth. So yeah, so that has shaped me. I couldn't believe years ago when I was in the military, when I first started off, I could not stand in front of people and talk. But then I was doing presentations to 192 people in one go.
Wow.
So yeah.
And these are all skills that in cyber are needed. And
Yes, definitely.
it is for anyone listening to this who has had experience in the military. I know a number of people in cyber with experience in the military, including yourself, Jeremy. The transition, you're bringing some much needed skill in certain areas. And there are skills that you may not have. But like you said, you can lean on people. And if you try to do it all by yourself, you're not going to have time. No one has time to learn everything. But that's when you create your teams and you work as a team.
Yeah, definitely. You're not going to have all the skills for everything. Like you say, you've got to lean on everybody else, but you've got to have a good, dedicated team to support you behind. Again, that's going back into the military because when you go on operations, you've got people behind you
Mm.
supporting you that are, if you're in the front line or anything like that. But, if it comes to a cyber incident, then you can rely on the people around you. I can reach out to a couple of other people in different councils that we can pull together, in the public services, so we can then make sure we get everything sorted and done and dusted.
That's incredible, just how beneficial the military has been in
Yeah,
shaping you and
definitely.
who you are and how you lead. And now, how you are doing that, helping local government and general society to be better and safer in another way, which is like, online. And there's loads of lessons that have been in this episode. And I wanted to kind of wrap up and ask you sort of towards the end now, if there's anything you want anyone to take away from this episode, if there was one thing you want them to go away with, what would that be?
I would say to run a good, strong team, you've got to become a good manager, but also a good listener. You've got to listen to your team. All right. So then if there's any issues, they can approach you. If you can't be approached, then that's where the problem's going to lie, because you need to have, I would say it's not a blame culture, especially in cyber. If something goes wrong, it's not, if someone sent out loads of emails with anything like that with personal information on it, it's just an incident. Deal
Yeah,
with it. Don't point fingers. Don't make them scared to turn around and say, I done it. Sorry. Just let them get on. Let them make the mistake. If they have made a mistake, how are you going to try and prevent it?
brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Well, you're welcome.
And that's a wrap on another episode of Cybersecurity in Focus, the podcast brought to you by Seacon Cyber. A massive thank you to Jeremy for being so open about his journey, from the RAF to the Port Health, from being a first-time corporal to a manager whose team can genuinely run without him. There was a lot shared in this episode, and one of the key things I took away was build the team, run the drills, and create an environment where people can come to you with the solution, not just the problem. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone in your network who would find it helpful. And just one more thing, if you would like to support Jeremy in his athletic journey, you can find the link to support him in the show notes. Please like, subscribe, follow the podcast wherever you're listening to it, and we'll be back next week with another episode. See you soon.